All right. Hello, everyone. And thank you for joining us again for this week's Tuesday Tipple's wine tasting. These are the owners of Tipple's Brews and Wines welcoming you to it, Elizabeth Vaudrey and Jeff Vaudrey. This week, we're going to be tasting a really unusual wine. It's the Sidebar Kerner by Ramey Wine Cellars out in California. Literally a unique Californian wine, as this is the only one made, period.
Wow.
So I think that's kind of cool. All right, so if you have not already, pop your bottles open. I chilled this guy down to around 40 degrees, giving it at least a good hour in the refrigerator. And lots of great pairings for this because it is an interesting dry white. You can go with sushi.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Shrimp scampi, seafood Alfredo because it has a nice zingy acidity to handle that, or whitefish dishes. Whitefish dishes. I only say that sentence at the beginning of the tasting.
All shrimp scampi on the menu, like paisano. Like,
Just grab a first impression. We'll talk a little bit about it after a moment, and then we can talk about why it tastes like it does. That is pretty. 100% Kerner, the grape. All of it is that. Stainless steel vinification, no oak on this guy. But it is 2.5 months surly.
What does that mean?
Surly, clearly it's angry.
Yeah.
No. So surly on the lees, French term. So the lees are the particles of yeast and a little bit of grape that's left over that settles to the bottom of the tank while they're fermenting. Leaving it on top adds weight and richness to what could otherwise be a very lean, racy grape. And that is a bit of about what we'll, I think, discover this wine presents.
Okay, so I have a question because as I'm tasting it, when I hold it in my mouth, it feels like it wants to be carbonated.
Yes.
But okay. What does that mean?
Yes, every single person. Fantastic.
Okay.
So glad you mentioned that.
I'm so glad I don't feel stupid.
Right.
Oh, no, absolutely. It feels that way. Everyone that's had this, and it is not. I mean, there is no sparkling. I mean, you can look in your glass. There are no bubbles.
Right. It's like it doesn't quite make it. So what is that?
That is the acidity, that zingy, fresh acidity.
I like
But at the end, there's a nice weight to it from the surly aging, so it feels incongruous.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, the surly, this might be a little linear in its acidity. I've had wines like that where it's nothing but acid.
Okay.
And it's just not as interesting for me. But that's, no, it feels in the beginning, it will pass, but in the beginning, it feels a little frizzante. Frizzante. I'm going to say it's nothing like German grape grown in California with a descriptor from Italy to just make wine people say, shut up, Jeff.
Yeah, well.
if I may, maybe I just poured it hard because I do feel, I don't feel.
There are little
It
tiny.
seems like there's little bubbles in there, and when I
little bit of
first smelled it,
effervescence.
yeah, I'm getting like I feel like this should be a Chardonnay.
Just a little bit,
Right.
not very much, just a very small amount.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any in mine. It might be the way I poured Elizabeth's. And this is the second bottle that I've been through. It actually is not. It really is a sensation caused by the acidity.
Well, I'm glad that I didn't.
No, I'm really glad you brought it up. But I think it's a great sensation.
Oh, yeah,
I love it.
absolutely.
I think it's great.
I like it.
I love the fact that people are like, nah, seriously, maybe there's some bubbles. I'm like, there really aren't. Only 329 cases of this produced, so very small.
Wow. Yeah. I'm trying to get your glass, the wires out from under your glass. I
You're
can
worried
see
that
it.
I'm going to
Yes,
dump everything?
I am.
No, it's a reasonable worry. How about that? I'll
Okay.
put that there. Well, I'll put that right in front of the microphone because
Right.
you guys don't need to hear me. Alcohol content on this guy, by the way, interesting, especially as we're talking about a German varietal of grape. But this is 14.1% alcohol. That's big for any white, let alone a German varietal. So it's kind of a fun zig and zag on this guy. It continues in its uniqueness. How about that? You know, it's just a really fun, interesting white.
Yeah,
So,
because that's much closer. Aren't reds normally 13 and a half to 14 and a half? And this is 14.1, you said?
yes, 14.1.
Yeah,
So, I mean, a lot of whites are more like 12 to 14 in range, but the Germans are often say 8 to 12 in range.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. In fact, well, we'll talk about it at the end. Jerry and I were drinking some delightful Rieslings that he brought to the store for me, and they were in the 8% range. And they were so good. But we'll cover
I like
that
Riesling. I do like Riesling.
because those aren't available in the country and I
No.
can't sell them. So mum's the word until we stop recording.
Okay.
All right. Dryness level. I know I mentioned to several people, including our wonderful Linda Roquefort, that this is a derivative. This is a crossbreed that includes Riesling in its background, and she was concerned that it wouldn't actually be dry. However, is dry, right? So it's a nice dry wine, high acidity, fantastic for like I say, light and dry. So it's great with seafoods, white meats. But because of that racy acidity, I think it works really well with like a scampi or even a creamy, a creamy seafood dish because it can get through those that fattiness and hang out.
Salads at the 706.
The body is a little heavier than it would be normally because of that surly aging. Because I mean, this is kind of a mouthful. I mean, it's got a nice weight to it. It's not just it's not wispy across the palate. No, you know it's there.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the fun with that acid playing with the weight, which I think is what creates that almost turbulent feeling across the palate. Lots of minerality in this guy. So here we have, you know, obviously some like a lemon lime, green apple, white peach on the fruit, but there's like a real slaty kind of minerality on this guy too. It's got a really nice mineral side to it. That would be reminiscent of Riesling. And we will talk about it is a crossbreed that includes that in its background.
I was gonna say, Jeff, do you taste like, I was telling Paul that this kind of reminds me of some of like the super vegan dishes that I was making last year. And I feel like I taste like, I said, it's not a fig and it's not a date, maybe like an apricot, like some sort of, you mentioned the peach. So I get the stone fruit. So I was kind of like, I would apricot or melon or something like that is what I smell or taste, but I don't know if anybody else feels that either.
I could go with definitely with a bit of a melony quality, almost like, but not quite when you have a lot like a muskmelon. It's a more an unusual one. And the other thing is with the apple quality in there, it's not quite just green apple. I would go more quince.
Okay.
And that's what some of those where you're like, why is it nagging? You know, like it's grabbing a piece of what I feel like it tastes like, but it's just a little different. And I think that's part of that is it's
I don't know what
bit
a
more
musk
like
melon
well,
tastes
like we only had one, but like a cassava melon rather than a honeydew.
Okay.
That kind of a thing is because it doesn't have the sweetness to go with it. But it is, and I think that's a great call, Linda. A little melony quality, I think is totally applicable. And like I said, I wrote lime, white peach, quince, and then a little bit of a spicy quality to it as well. And that comes from the surly and the fact that this is whole cluster fermented, so they leave it on the stems and crush it all down there. So you're going to get some kind of an herby, spicy quality to it as well.
I like the spicy call because I was thinking while I was sipping it, I was like, there's like this bite to it towards the end where there is like this bit of pepper or something else that really kind of comes out, nips at you.
Nice.
I was like, is it just that kind of effervescence that's getting to me, or is there like a white pepper or something else like that that's kind of coming through? And It's
Yeah.
kind of nipping at you a little bit.
Yeah, I said it reminded me of making like jam because you'll have your like peaches or fruit or something like that. And then you'll normally add like a green apple for pectin and then sugar and then like a squeeze of lemon and lime juice. And I feel like it's a lot of those flavors to it.
Right, great. I love it. I love all of that. And going back to that pectin and that kind of that robustness to this wine and the white pepper, because white pepper is where I would go, Chris, for the herb, for that kind of that spiciness. It's a very bright, white, clean, which leads right into that, what you would expect. This is grown in soil that is basically what am I thinking of? When mountains are worn down by time.
Erosion.
Thank you. Eroded soils that run down the mountain. So it's that clean, it's all those, a combination of volcanic or, granite and that kind of thing thrust up from the earth and then eroded back down in a run. And then they're planted in that.
Okay.
So I think that a lot of that minerality comes through. Let us jump into where it was grown and why it tastes like it does.
Okay. Hold on a second because the slides aren't set up yet, evidently. Okay. Well, you're going to see behind the scenes just a moment. And then we'll change to the present mode.
See,
There
it
you
didn't
go.
take so long. We could pretend that didn't even happen.
It's recorded.
That's right.
You can't pretend. It's not.
Okay, so here's our opening slide that I ignored.
You did.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did all the work and just blasted right past
It's because
it.
you know the wine so well. You just
Exactly.
there you go.
So the Ramey Cellars makes this. Sidebar is one of their product lines. We'll talk about one of the wines they used to make with you later on.
The red one?
The red one that you loved.
I did.
And they stopped making it.
It's very sad for me.
You know what? When I talk to Dave Ramey,
There you go.
there are going to be words. All right.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. All right. So here we are in the world. So we are over into California. Yep. Yeah, right here. It's right in that, Sonoma. Lodi is right here in the center as well. So when we look at where in the latitudes can you grow wine, we're right in the center. So no shocker there. My wonderful new map that I love with the wine growing regions in the United States. So we are up here.
Real quick before we go too far from the latitudes, how does it coordinate to Germany? Like where this is grown?
Good
You
call.
wanna go back one.
Yes, go back one, please.
Oops, that was forward.
Yep. That's not what I expected to see on the next one.
Oh.
Something didn't save. Great. All right. So yeah. So here we go. So it's being grown here, and here we are around
So
here.
Germany's
So
significantly farther
it's
north.
farther north. Yeah, a good jaunt
Yeah.
farther north. So there could definitely be a significant difference, and actually we'll talk about that this wine was actually made to be able to handle colder environments originally. So so that does make total
But
sense.
it's not
It was
grown in like Washington or Oregon.
no, it's just
Just that one.
it's
place.
it's a pretty unique, well, not unique, but it is an unusual grape. It could be grown there. They should be growing it in New York and Canada, frankly, but we'll get there.
Just call them up, tell them.
I will. You know what? I am in charge.
Mhm.
There are things I want to drink. So, all right.
You
so
sure about that? You sure?
I am not. No, there are things I want to drink. So half of that statement was true.
Just point of contact. Just kidding.
Exactly. All right. So here we are. Oh, all right. So this is both. So I've got both of these guys up here for a reason. It was kind of fun. So this week we are drinking from.
You said Lodi?
Lodi, which.
The red in the middle.
There we go. We're drinking from Lodi, inland right here. So here's Napa, Sonoma, And then we had some things from the Monterey area and that kind of thing. So this is inland. Some nice altitude helps out. We'll talk about exactly why it works. Here's what struck me. I don't know if for those of you that were with us last week, I commented on how impressed or intrigued I was with the large amount of Spain that can produce really nice grapes. And then here we have California. Like, to me, I thought that was kind of a neat, it just jumped into my head as I was preparing the slides, how similar it is with so large an area that is available for grape production. I thought that was kind of cool, in addition to showing that Lodi is there.
Cool comparison.
Thank you. So within Lodi, we are drinking from this sub-AVA, the Mokelumne River. Yeah, let's go with that one. That's I think I got it right.
Let's pretend that's how you pronounce
That's
it.
right. And what we're drinking, so we're not drinking from this area, where's the fields and areas. We're actually in the valley floor on this one. And you will see how close to the river we are later with a wonderful picture that I found. So the within Lodi, the Mokelumne River, AVA, abundant moisture. Most areas do not have to irrigate. They do get regular rains. This is the only Kerner grown in California. I have not found any Kerner grown anywhere in the US, but that is what they listed it as. Kerner is resistant to mold and mildew, which is really helpful because they do have a decent amount of moisture in that area. It's grown close to the river valley floor. There's less wind down there to help sweep away that moisture. So its resistance to mildew is really kind of key. The soil is an alluvial sand and loam, a combination of sand, salt, and clay that washes down from eroding the mountains. And if I'd read this, I wouldn't have needed help with the word eroding or erosion. Fast raining, low nutrient, high mineral. We've heard that almost everywhere that we're drinking wine. And I was wrote in here, are you wondering how close to the river that this vineyard is?
How close is it?
It's that close. When they had a flood, this is the actual vineyard of Kerner.
Well, I was just, at first I just thought you were showing the river. And then I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Those look like grapevines.
This is this vineyard.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, did they lose all of those? Because that's a lot of moisture.
Good question. No, they did
Okay.
not.
All right.
As long as it doesn't last too long. And there are some vineyards in the world that do this on purpose.
Oh.
So we have one red blend. We have one red blend.
He wants to know if you have a number for how close it is to the river. That's why he's saying quantitative response.
Oh yeah,
to
I
the
do.
proximity question.
It's
Okay.
exactly 0.8 of a click. Jackass. All right.
Now, if any of you are watching the chat, so Russell decided to put it, in like technical speak instead of just saying how close is
That's
it.
It's
Yeah.
0.8 of a click. Yeah, that's right.
It's also not me. That was Dan Hillsbury. He's
Oh.
welcoming me back to the crew.
That guy.
Okay.
Oh my
okay.
God. How does that make so much sense?
Right? Yes.
Cheers, Dan. All right. So anyway, so this is the actual vineyard. Was flooded. Some of them do this on purpose because it will kill the phylloxera.
Oh.
And if you do this regularly
drowns
enough,
them.
it drowns
Mhm.
them. You can actually have vines that are pure. Like you don't have to.
I actually think we drank from one that you said that they did this and drowned the phylloxera, but I can't remember.
I think I
which
just
one it was.
referenced it before.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So anyway, all right, let's jump back up because I jumped a little bit ahead of myself.
Okay.
I do that. Here is the river. So this is the actual river cutting through the land. You can see it's pretty rough, and then the vines just start right on the other side of that foliage, exactly 0.8 of a click away from the river.
I don't know why you didn't say 4/5.
Right?
Exactly.
8. All right, so within Lodi,
Uh-huh.
the grapes varietals that are grown in Lodi, here's the list. We've got a lot of Zin, a lot of Chard, a lot of Cab, and Merlot. You will not see Kerner on this list once again, because it's the only one grown there. But I thought it was kind of fun to throw this out there.
Yeah, no,
So-
I think that's so cool because you can see all these different grapes. And
Right. Right. Well, and this
No comment.
vineyard was Viognier until the 90s, and then they switched it.
Okay.
Man.
Which you would think is just a few years ago, but it's actually a
Oh
significant
my
amount of
gosh, I
time
know.
ago.
And,
Yes.
and now it makes them old vine, and it depresses me.
Yeah.
All right, so here's a look at the soil. Like we talked about, the alluvial soil that kind of comes down off the mountains as it erodes. It dries very quickly. Not a lot of nutrient content, but lots of minerality to give us character. And when we did, you could taste it in there.
Do we know what's going on in this picture? Because they've got like, see, it's like a caution line.
Oh,
And
that was
then-
just for them to dig down and give you just a view.
Oh, okay.
Of what's
They
going
just
on.
dug down to show it because they don't have a sinkhole problem like we do.
No,
right?
no,
Yeah,
right. No,
okay.
they do not.
Okay.
That is just to show us a cross section of the soil.
Okay.
And I thought, you guys going to do that at work? I will include it in my presentation.
Yeah, there you go.
That was probably dug by hand. Poor guys.
Ooh.
So Kerner is named for a poet. Kerner was created in 1929 by August Harold, and he named the grape after Justinus Kerner, who was a poet, a songwriter, and a physician all
Okay.
together, like as one would
Renaissance
expect.
man.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And he used to write poems and songs about wine. And so,
That sounds like something you
Yeah.
would do.
you know, honestly, yes, it really does. So Kerner is cold hardy, even more cold hardy than Riesling. Thank you. And it's good down to 14 degrees Fahrenheit. So
gosh.
it's really robust, and it has a more robust production than Riesling. This was the reason for its creation. It actually is a cross between Trollinger and Riesling. It's a cross between a red grape and a white grape. And yet you can see, like, here's Riesling, here's Kerner. They look identical.
They
I mean,
do.
the red was completely left behind, but the robustness of what it could do was gained
Okay.
without giving up character, which was the point. This actually had a really good run, and by the early to mid 90s, it was the third most grown grape in Germany.
Oh,
But since then, it's really fallen off and is now down to 8th, which is a far 8th. Like
Okay.
when you get down out of the top 3,
Mhm.
it's a heavy
there's
fall.
a big drop
Yeah.
off.
But so at this point, it's grown in Germany, Austria, and northern Italy in the Alps. It is basically where you will find this. The big thing is in Germany now, what are they starting to grow? Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, much more popular on the world stage. There's no reason, for
Mhm.
them financially, why try to convince somebody to drink a Kerner when you can give them a Sauv Blanc that happens to be grown in Germany?
So as climate changes, they're just capitalizing on
They
that.
are, because they can grow
Mhm.
them easier now than ever. So,
Sure.
now, I'm not saying they're not losing something, because I think this is a delicious
Yeah,
wine.
I really like it.
And it certainly has qualities. I'm not saying, oh, wow, this is a Kerner. It tastes just like a Sauvignon Blanc. It does not.
No, it doesn't.
It has a nice acidity,
Mhm.
but it has a spicy quality that is not
Yeah.
in there. So
And thank God it doesn't taste like a buttery oak Chardonnay.
there are some good ones.
Okay.
Don't do that.
Okay.
I agree, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
I'm going to make you guys drink one. I told you
And-
it's coming.
Please don't make me drink it on camera.
There are really good ones.
Buttery oaky.
Yes.
Okay,
You
all right.
realize that the Chardonnay that won the Judgment of Paris to make Napa awesome had oak to it.
Okay. Well, okay.
Maybe we'll drink that one. I mean, it's not cheap, but
Okay. Well.
all right.
Yeah.
Chateau Montelena, here we come.
No,
It will change your
okay,
mind.
Well, we'll discuss it.
All right.
The next
Let's go to the
slide.
next slide. All right, Ramey Wine Cellars. Here we go. That's Dave and Carla Ramey. They are the owners. They started it in 1996, but Dave has had an amazing career in winemaking. He finished his enology degree from UC Davis in 1979. His style is this great combination of old world grape growing techniques meets modern winemaking techniques, which is why he gets these great flavors that other people don't do. The Ramey collection is fantastic, available at a retailer called Tipple's.
I've definitely heard of him before. You've talked about him.
Oh,
with
sure.
Other things. Yeah.
I love their stuff. They are fantastic. Let's see here. Spearheaded techniques. Among the techniques that he spearheaded are whole cluster fermentation, which we're seeing in this, surly aging, seen in this. So both of those, he's got a couple of other things that apply to different grapes. We can always talk about that as we revisit Ramey, which I'm sure we will do. But those are two of the most important techniques that he applied to this one. He always looks to start with great terroir and then work with it and add to, maybe with some character with his techniques, but not overwhelm it. So that would be the thing that kind of drives me a little bit crazy with some California wines, is when you have no sense of place. And Dave Ramey certainly is not that guy. No, he's a great winemaker. Beautiful work. Let's go to next, please. So a little look here. So you can see this is a very modern place. So here we have, once they come out of the vineyards, these are modern applications, really working with it, with every technique that applies to today. So
yeah.
This is not,
All those,
I mean, remember,
steel vats, but they have wood too. So
sure,
there's some
absolutely. There's oak
coverage there.
involved. Absolutely. But those, beautiful, clean oak barrels. But I mean, compare this to, not in a derogatory way, to when we were drinking the Canary Islands.
Oh no, it's very, very different.
It's just
it doesn't
very
look old world
different,
at all.
right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
it looks very modern. Well, and it almost, with like all the steel that you see, it almost looks, if you ignore all the barrels, like a brewery.
Sure.
Yeah.
They are similar in what they do. Okay.
Are you ready for the next one?
Let's go to the next. All right. So ratings on this guy. We do have some good, like these guys are grabbing, when they're reviewed, we've got a 90 and a 91 point rating. This vintage was a little newer. Actually, yeah, no, this one grabbed one of those. So they've had everything from early vintages that were unrated because they were just putting them on the scene, but basically they're pushing 90 almost every single time. Like I was talking about, if we're talking anywhere from 85 to 89, a very good wine with special qualities. Is it crisp? Is it clean? Does it have character? Yes. Does it have superior character? Is it truly kind of, to me, they call it outstanding and wine of superior character. To me, if you're going to bump from just a well-made wine, it's more of unique characteristics.
Okay.
And that, to me, is what would jump it up to that. Okay, you're out of the 90s. You're out of the 80s, excuse me. You're up into the 90s, low 90s kind of a thing. And once you get there, really, you're drinking a really nice glass of wine. So, to me, I think every bit of that 90 point average is earned with this glass of wine, for all those reasons. And like we talk about, it's a coalescence of place and winemaking and uniqueness and vision, and I think it makes sense.
I really like it.
Yeah, and this is a white.
Okay, so should we stop the share so we can have a discussion?
Sure, let's talk about it a bit.
Okay, yeah. So before we started, Jeff was like, "We're drinking white tonight. Whites are great. People don't have to be disappointed because it's not a red. Whites are wonderful."
'Tis true.
Right. So, I mean, but I really like it. I like the little bit of, it's not carbonation, but it feels like a hint of carbonation.
It's a prickly,
yes,
fun, playful.
I like that.
Yeah.
Like
Is this something that
yeah.
that you keep in the store regularly, or is this just a special buy?
It's so small in production, it is a special buy. I bought all of it. I did. I bought all of it.
All of it
in the state of Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just bought all of it.
Damn, I like it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad.
He said he likes it better than his Pinot Grigio. I was like, yeah, because that's water.
Oh, it is better. I like it better too.
I do too.
No, thank
Better
you.
than a
No,
Pinot
excellent.
Grigio,
Well,
for sure.
I appreciate it. I really liked it too, which is why I bought it. I mean, there were only 3 cases to grab. I grabbed all 3 cases. That really makes me happy that you guys enjoyed it as well.
So it's just anytime it comes out that like it comes out like once a year or
It'll come. This won't be out again, I don't think, until at least May, but
Okay.
it might be as late as fall.
okay.
If they even bring it back in, I'm not sure because it's small production. COVID is wreaking havoc. It's driving me crazy. We won't get into it right now, but it is interrupting. It's not interrupting grocery store wines. It's interrupting those people like us that are getting, interesting small production wineries. Those guys are being interrupted left and right. And it's driving me a little bit crazy right now. So when I see some of these, I'm jumping all over them.
Yeah.
Like when we go off air, I'll tell you about, I just bought out the entire allocation of one Australian winemaker, everything he makes.
Wow.
I bought all of it. So, because it was my only chance to get it.
I
So
love Australian.
anyway.
Stuff, so if you hear heavy breathing, it's not us. It's the dog that is right here. So
Right.
speak for yourself. You look lovely. Right.
Okay. So
All right.
comments, questions.
Yeah, what are you guys thinking?
So Elizabeth, kind of like what you led with. So I was literally just talking to Chris about this like last night, where I went on this whole like tirade about how I feel like we do a lot of red wines, which is nice because they're very, I think there's a lot to analyze there. There's a lot of nuance, and I feel like I don't get that a lot for white wines. But this is great. This has a lot of like flavor profile to it and stuff that I can actually like identify notes rather than just being like, wow, yum, white wine, I'm gonna drink this all.
Lemon water.
So I really like this. I think this is a fantastic wine.
Oh, thank you.
I thought this was kind of like the epitome of the like the 89, like the very good wine with special qualities that I'm like, I really like this, but there's like it's some unique things that stand out to it that I'm like, oh hey, this is fun. Like it is a really nice wine. Like we had it with sushi, but I've been mentioning to her all night that I'm like, I really like that creamy seafood pasta idea that I'm like, actually I almost kind of want something rich to for this to kind of cut through a little bit. It's really, really nice.
Yeah, it's very interesting for a white wine. Like I feel like it's really unique. I don't know if I've had a lot of stuff like with this profile before.
Yeah.
This would be awesome when we get nasty during the summer where it's like 90-degree weather.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
This would be, and the thing is, this can handle, like if we put it in context of like, let's go with Tipple's food truck context, right? You could have this with monster lobster.
Right.
Monster lobster.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a lobster ravioli would be
Right. Oh,
fantastic.
but you could also have this with twisted tikka, the wonderful Indian food that comes.
Or with taste.
Yeah.
You could do
Or
a taste.
Spring
Yeah.
rolls.
You know, it can run through that because it's got this
Right.
flexibility to it.
Yeah.
So we had it with swordfish tonight.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
Excellent. So that goes back to what you were saying, Chris and Robin, like a heavier, oilier fish. And it actually, I finally looked at Jerry and I said, I'm gonna pair this. I'm gonna take a bite of fish. I'm gonna take a sip of wine, and then we had cold shrimp too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
Nice.
Did really well with that too. So yeah,
Where'd you find the swordfish at? Whole Foods or
Northwest.
Northwest?
Oh
I
yeah.
love
I still need to go there. They're right around the corner from us and we still haven't gone yet.
Yeah, I went there and then I went to Upper Crust and got a couple of macaroons, and they're good with that too.
I like it. Well, shall we look at next week's wine?
Sure.
Yeah, and when ready?
Okay.
Yep. And then we'll toast out. Get toasted out. All right. So next week We're going back to red. The Finca de Cerno Owl and Dust Devil red blend. Oh, everybody.
I haven't seen that. You haven't brought it home.
Oh, no, I have not.
Yeah,
This is a very
that's-
special one I've had my eye on. So 92 points, wine enthusiast Robert Parker. It is a French, it's a Bordeaux red blend,
Okay.
but including our good friend Tanat.
Oh.
Yes,
I really
yes,
like that.
yes.
Oh, you'll tell us next week.
Of Argentina. So Mendoza, Argentina, red blend. It is Cab, Malbec, Petit Verdot, and Tanat. And it's Tanat to be missed, and it will knock your socks off.
So I know you can't give too much away, but is there a story behind the name and the label?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Good. Yes. Okay.
For next
I'm
week.
excited.
All right, so pairings, beef bourguignon, short ribs, chimichurri steak. I was trying to say things like steak without saying the same stuff I've said a million times, but anyway, all things red meat to work with.
Okay.
It's really cool. So actually, honestly, well, I'll tell you guys after we stop recording. But
Okay.
really,
He's not here.
I know that's my joke. So.
Okay.
Feeling mignon.
Any last comments or anything before we turn off the recording? Because we have great
Love it.
after I turn it off sometimes.
I had stuff to say.
What? Yeah, no, Dan can't say anything while it's
That's
being
right.
recorded. Nothing.
Somebody's about to.
Over the last 2 years.
What do you think I'm done?
Okay, but as far as like great questions after the recording, I'm looking at you, Paul.
Paul's the king.
No?
I did have some comments about the flavor and food that are actually relevant, and I feel like everything I said was relevant because I now know that it's 800 meters from the river, which was valuable to know. I've brought nothing but contribution to this discussion.
So one thing
Yeah.
about this,
No.
Cheers,
Cheers, everybody.
I guess so. Okay.